Today we're going to be taking a look at ASUS's TUF Gaming PC, the FX10. Let's start off with the specs. It has a 6-core Intel Core i7-8700, 8GB of DDR4 RAM, 128GB of M.2 SATA SSD boot drive, 1TB hard drive for storage, and a GTX 1050.
The right side panel is pretty bare except for the ventilation holes and some stickers. Opening up the side reveals a pretty standard ATX layout. The Intel Core i7-8700 is cooled by a single fan heatsink, not much different from a stock Intel heatsink. There's a single stick of 8GB of DDR4 RAM, a rear fan exhaust, and an OEM-looking GTX 1050. For the boot drive, there's a 128GB SK Hynix M.2 SATA drive, and right next to it is a Wi-Fi card. In the lower compartment of the chassis resides a 1TB hard drive as well as the power supply. At the back is two USB 3.1 ports, an HDMI port for the integrated Intel HD graphics, two more USB 2.0 ports, an Ethernet port, audio ports, DVI, HDMI, and a display port from the GTX 1050, and lastly the single fan power supply. Oh, and there's also an optical drive in case you need it. Back to the outside, on top is two USB 2.0 ports as well as a headphone microphone combo port, and just to the right edge of the case is the illuminated power button.
The overall build is pretty bare bones with lots of OEM components and bare metal, so it's pretty boring to look at, but as long as it performs well, it shouldn't matter, right? So let's look at that. 1080p gaming performance is good. In GTA 5, the FX10 was able to sustain above 60fps performance with very high settings and FXAA enabled. The FX10 was also able to sustain above 100fps performance in CSGO and Dota 2. Fraps was running into issues with PUBG, so we couldn't really tell how much FPS exactly it was doing, so we could only estimate. Using the very high settings, it was doing around 40 to 50 FPS. During gaming, the CPU and GPU rose to around 60 to 65 degrees Celsius, but it was during our Cinebench run where the CPU throttled from around 4.3 GHz down to 3.7 or 3.6 GHz. So for CPU-intensive tasks, you might want to put in a bigger cooler. So conclusion time. The FX10 is a good 1080p gaming PC with no frills, but it's quite expensive and it's still a lot cheaper to build your own PC. For the Core i7 model, it's almost 64,000 pesos, and 46,000 pesos for the Core i5 model. Both only come with a GTX 1050, and the Core i5 model doesn't even have an SSD boot drive. This mismatched hardware really confuses me because if they wanted the FX10 to sit below the ROG desktops, then why not make it a Ryzen-based system? A Ryzen 3 or Ryzen 5 CPU would have offered more value without that tangible effect on 1080p gaming performance, and would have kept the price lower. So in conclusion, ASUS is in a position to make a budget-oriented gaming lineup with their TUF brand, but with this current specs and pricing, they're going about it all wrong. My advice would be for them to keep the mid-tier GPU like a GTX 2050 and go with a more sensible CPU option, and please include an SSD boot drive as standard. The bare bones chassis is fine as long as it keeps the prices low. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe for more videos like this.